First audio workshop that we do in this church, and I want to thank you for your interest and participating in this. First of all, I want to thank Peter. Probably all of you know Peter. Peter is a very talented guy, and he offered to help us in this workshop. Peter's here. He's a musician, he's a sound engineer and software programmer, in addition to a few other things that I don't know about him. So, like any one of us. الستراكشر بتاع workshop day هيبقى 4 sessions, 2 sessions in the morning, 2 sessions in the afternoon, and lunch in between. Those who attended my piano workshop يعرفوا ان انا my approach to this is very much I focus very much on the basics. لانه I believe if you know the basics very well, it's actually very easy for you to understand things that are more complicated. Nothing in fancy in the whole audio business is not based on very simple basics. And I can guarantee you that's probably grade 8 to 8, grade 6 to 8 science that you will remember as you will see. We'll go over the basic components of an audio system and its function, how we actually hook things to an audio setup, what is the signal flow within this, and we will understand what signal flow means. Peter is very good at this, and sound processing as well. And at last, which is very important, but it's not going to be fully covered in here, is networking, and I'll explain to you why networking, data networking. You would say, why audio has to do anything with networking, and I'll explain that to you later on. I have to put a disclaimer here that all of these images I just got from the internet and maybe copyright. So the schedule is, as you see, in the morning, we'll have 2 sessions. So we are already late by 20 minutes. I will cover the basics of sound and the basics of electronics. And again, this is what will be the very basic science piece, but is very important. Session 2, هنتكلم على main components of an audio system from beginning to end. So you hear this noise, huh? Okay, we're going to talk about that. Do you need more output from my end? More out? What about now? Good? More? You need more? Good. And then we'll talk about what are the components of the audio system, starting from the input devices like this one, and cables like this one, mixers like this one, and amplifier speakers, that's why you hear the sounds, and then processors as the last thing. That's the morning session, and then we'll have lunch. A bit, yeah, we're right. No, it doesn't look like that. Actually, it might look like that in a sandwich. So these are the components of a sandwich. And then it's not going to be, this is not wine, this is Pepsi, by the way. They are just using wine glasses, just to be clear. Huh? Who got this picture? The PM session is going to be 2 sessions, برضو. This will be a bit more practical in depth. عشان كده في ناس طلبت. I know Mariana, for example, will ask me if she can come late. If you don't understand the first half, you will have no clue what's happening in the second half. And that's why, actually, if you would rather attend, I would attend the first half and leave rather than the second half. ليه؟ لأنه the second half is all built on what we're going to talk in the first half. Peter's going to talk mostly about signal flow within the system. This is the more fancy, smart stuff that he's going to cover. Signal processing, that include equalization, which I just did now. dynamics, delay, reverb, modulation. We'll talk about this and just give you an idea what all of these means and what it does. The last session, we'll try to do some practical example. This would be sort of, if we hopefully will have time, but this would be more driven by your questions, and we can show you how things work. That's why I have this other software that we'll be using to show you what is a frequency, what is an equalizer, what is a reverb, what is a delay, whatever, right? Any questions so far? This should be a very interactive session. فلو فيش حد فاهم حاجة, feel free to raise your hand. We're all learning from each other, and it's a very heavy, there's a lot of information, and I need to, some of you know way more than others, and some of you know very little, some of you know more advanced. So the collective benefit is going to be when we address individual questions as well. Okay, any questions so far? We have coffee and cookies on the back. If at any point of time you'll need some caffeine, we have it. So, basics of sound. What is sound? Okay. Vibration in what? What are the particles? But you're right. What are the particles that vibrate that we hear? Air, right? So what happens when those speakers work is that I can turn this off. So the whole point of an audio system is you end up hearing me, because otherwise I have to shout. So we have to have a way of conveying this low voice to a much louder voice. And I'm not connected to the microphone, so the microphone has to pick up my voice in one way or another. Sound is vibration. You're right. It's actually, if you look at this speaker, this is two view of the same speaker, and you see the way sound gets generated in these speakers is they have this cone or diaphragm that moves, and when it moves, it just pushes a little bit of air in a certain frequency. That's why it goes back and forth. This is 30 times slower from the real speed, so it's actually usually very fast. And when this happens, this is the way waves propagate in fluids. So fluids include liquids and gas, and air is a mixture of gas. So it's much easier to see the sound waves when you look at water. So this is exactly what happens when sound is generated in air, and that's how it propagates through the medium until it reaches us. As you can see in this wave, can somebody describe how this wave, what's special about it? Okay, so it's one point and then it goes into certain direction depending on how you generate it. What else? A repetition, so that's the frequency. Okay, what else? What happens as it goes further? It gets bigger and weaker. Excellent. So that's why when I'm standing before you, I can turn this microphone and you can listen to me, but if you are there, I have to shout, and if you're even further, I need the speakers, right? So sound waves, they lose energy as they propagate because they dissipate to a larger area, so that energy gets dissipated into a larger number of molecules in the air, and that's why it gets weaker and weaker, then it fades away completely, right? The characters of sound, these are the very basic ones, but the most important ones as well, is for any wave, so it's a pressure wave, and there are a few things that characterizes this pressure wave. You can read it or you can figure it out, but more or less, it's a volume of air that gets compressed, so it could be small or could be large volume, so that's the amplitude of the sound wave. And then the frequency, I'll explain that to you later on, really dictates the tone that we hear. So low frequency is usually oh, high frequency is the high. And I will explain that to you later on. So the tone of that sound really depends on its frequency. So there is an amplitude, there is frequency, and then there is a character. So in this image here, you can see on the left and on the right, more or less the same thing, but different frequencies. So think about that this red piston is pushing a bit of air, and then it's moving back and forward, right? The speed they go back and forward and backward is the frequency. It dictates the spacing between those air pressure, right? While the amount of air is the amplitude. So they can go lots of air but slow, or they can go high frequency, pushing the same amount of air. So it all depends. So the frequency is the speed of the wave, and not the speed of the wave, the spacing between how quickly that diaphragm is moving, and how much it is moving is a different thing, right? Obviously, it is more difficult to move an object faster and with much more volume, right? So if you have, for example, physically, if I have, I'll explain that later on, so we don't get confused. But these are two different things. How much air I'm pushing is one thing, and the frequency I'm vibrating is another thing. And lastly is the shape of the wave, meaning that how actually this diaphragm is moving dictates the color of the sound, not the tone. It could be still the same tone, but that's how we differentiate, for example, on the right, a very simple wave, we call it a sine wave, or a triangle wave, or a square wave, or a sawtooth wave, which we can show you how it sounds. It's like, you know, like a buzzer, like a radio, you know, alarm radio, you get, that's a simple wave. But then if you make the same tone on a piano, it sounds very different. It's still the same tone, meaning it's the same note, but it's different. So when you hear your alarm radio ringing in the morning, you can differentiate that from the same tone, the same note, but on a piano, for example. Does this make sense, or is this easy? So if you see on the right, the sine wave is a very simple wave, right? And it gets you that boring note, but it doesn't have any color. Instruments, on the other hand, produces the same frequency, so the frequency of all of these waves are the same, but the color is different. That's why you want to play C on a piano, C on a guitar, they are different. Right? They are still both C, same amplitude, same loudness, but they sound different. There is more details to this with harmonics and stuff like that, but that's not the purpose of this. And different instruments has different frequency range. Sorry, I couldn't find something bigger than this, but if you look, so if this is a keyboard, starting from here to here, this is the range of a piano, 88-key piano. And then in comparison to this is what the frequency range of a pipe organ would be. So it's actually wider than an 88-keyboard piano, meaning that it can generate frequencies and sounds that are actually beyond what a piano can play. This is the harp. It stops here. The violin It doesn't have much of the low end. It's mostly middle range, right? And the same for cello. For piccolo, it's very fine and high, so it doesn't generate any of the low frequency, but mostly of the high frequency. I'll show you what I mean here. And similarly for different instruments. And vocals are there on the top. If you can see, male voice has a more bass sound, a more deep sound, while female voice has a higher lower end, but then it can go a little bit higher than a male sound. So I'll demonstrate to you just to understand a Hill frequency on a software. Peter, do you want to add anything? This is, yeah, that's what I'm doing here. So this is, can you see this? I'll move it to this side. So this is a software where we record music. This is what I use to record my music. I produce my music and end up with a song. It has one of the functions is it has a tone generator, so you can actually now listen to what first one is sine wave. Good, thank you. What a white noise, what a pink noise, what a square. I'll show you what it means. So let's listen to a sine wave. So this is what a sine wave would sound like, right? Very boring, no colors, no character. And then if you change that to square wave, that's what a square wave. So that would be the shape of the wave if we look at it in visually. Nice music. Here, and here. Mm-hmm. Thank you, that's better. That's actually we need to do that. So what this other window is showing you is actually it reads the signal. So it just reads the signal that is fed through that generator. And you see here it is mainly one wave at 1K. So that's the frequency. But I'll show you how it sounds when we actually move this to different frequencies. Listen to this. Can you listen to it? Can you hear anything? You can't hear, right? Because this is beyond what we can hear. Some insects and animals actually hear that. That's how they actually generate those mosquito repellent, is that it generates something like this that they can hear and get annoyed with, but we can't. So we can hear up to just before 20K, around 18K, 16K. Isn't that fun? What other thing, what else? And then we have, again, we can look at different, so another boring music. So let's go back to the sine wave, and I want you to have another observation. So that all of these signals are the same level. You see, this is the level of the signal here. It's the same. What happened when I go down and up? Let's work on this. So electronically, they are the same level, right? I'm not changing the level. The level is here. The level is minus 41, right? This is the pressure. This is how much these speakers are pushing, right? This is how much. Yes. Sound pressure level. So it's a volume is, yeah, it's a sound pressure level because it is a physical thing, is how much air these speakers are pushing for each frequency, right? They're pushing the same amount of energy. But then, if you look, what happened when I go down? Space. Okay, that's. It is right, but that's not what I mean. What else? How much you hear here and how much you hear here? And then we go up. So although the sound pressure level is the same, but your perception of sound is different, right? So the same amount of voltage and energy going to the speaker is the same, but your perception is different. Oh, if you could say, I cannot hear any of the bass. Like, get the bass up. Like, I don't hear the drums. The low end is gone. Why the mix is so bad, etc., etc. While it has actually the same energy. So, what the importance of this is. Not sure if this is the slide coming up or no. Yeah, it's this one. So again, this one talks about the same thing, so it's a bit redundant. But this slide is what I wanted to show to you. And this one is, it shows you that our ear perceives different frequencies at different levels. Perceive the same level of different frequencies in a different way. Although the same level is the same, energy-wise, electric-wise, like going to the speaker, our ear are way more sensitive to the middle range. That's how we are created. And the purpose of this, because we talk to each other, this is actually the human voice range. So our ears are more sensitive to the range we can speak with, and less so in the lower section and less so in the higher section. So this curve is, if you are familiar with that, but this is on the top level here is the sound pressure level, and it gets measured with something called decibel. So this is a sound pressure level of a frequency wave, like the one you heard it, right? When it is, and this is when we increase the sound pressure level, this is how our ear perceives sounds. So look at this one. We only can hear 40 hertz, which is the lower frequency, only if the sound pressure level is close to 60. But as I increase the frequency, our ear actually can perceive way lower frequency, right? So way lower pressure level. So our ear is very sensitive to hear, and then the sensitivity decreases because it needs more pressure level for us to hear that, right? You understand this? This is very important, actually. And I know it's not very easy to understand. So, meaning that the importance of this is in a mix, you have instruments that all over the spectrum, right? The vocals are here, so people actually perceive the vocals much easier, right? If all the levels are the same within the speakers. But I have to push way more of the low energy for you to perceive low frequency. You understand what I mean? In a way that, because our ears are less sensitive to lower frequency, the amount of energy going to the speakers is much higher for low end, like bass and drums and stuff like that, compared to vocals. If you are a singer who would care, but if you are operating a system, it's very important. ليه؟ لأنه any audio system has a capacity. There's a speaker. Any speaker can handle certain amount of energy. If you overdo that, it's gonna blow up, right? So you have to understand and utilize the amount of sound that you can push into this speaker, and in the context of this. So somebody say, oh, I cannot hear, if I get you a very small speaker like this that barely can produce any bass level or any strong bass, and I cannot hear bass. If I try to push the bass for you to hear, it's too much energy for it to handle, and it's gonna blow, right? While I can do this in a bigger speaker, in a big subwoofer, which can handle this energy. So it's very important for you, because even, you remember if you have those, you know, those boxes that lights up when it hear music or something like that. Or you have a VU meter in an old stereo that moves with the sound signal. You won't see it going very high when I'm talking, but it goes with the beat. You find that when the beat goes on, it goes up, 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 like either this way or this way. Why? Because in the system as a whole, this is where the electric energy is going through the system. So the more you push of this, not much the vocals usually doesn't blow these speakers. It's usually something either on the very high end, because you need to push more energy, or very low end, because you need to push more energy. Not as much in here. Usually people complain about this, oh, too noisy, the vocals are very harsh, and why is this? Because they perceive this much easier. So in an attempt to do that, you need to balance. One of the things that we do in the total mix is to balance this. So you have a nice bass, nice drums, nice vocals, still apparent, but it's like coloring, right? You don't use much of one color. I will. Exactly. Each instrument and each color. We'll go through that later on. So I'll show you something also interesting, very interesting. At least I hope you find it interesting. Which is another wave, another sound. And I'll explain to you why it's fun. So this is back to our wave generator. So again, very simple wave generator. Software, generates a sine wave, whatever type, whatever shape of wave. And then there are two types of wave that are very important in audio that we don't necessarily play music with, but we use it very much to adjust the acoustics of a system. I'll explain to you why. But these two are called the pink noise and the white noise. Let's listen first to the pink noise and white noise, and then talk about what they are. It sounds like, a TV station that is not running anything. And then a pink noise is like this. What is the difference between the two? Sorry, what? No, without going to the specifics, what difference do they sound? Like in what way they sound differently? Mark. Mm-hmm. Marianne. pink noise is more مكتوم. يعني إيه مكتوم? Lower? Lower. If I tell you that both exactly are the same sound level. Again, let's play it again. So they are both exactly the same sound level. I haven't changed anything here. Again, remember the perception piece. Our ears are more sensitive to what? To the middle range. So can you explain to them the difference?
So the white noise has the same level from the lower frequencies to the high frequencies. So when he shows you the analyzer, you'll see that they're all exactly the same level that they're coming out of. But because our ears, going back to the previous diagram, we hear certain frequencies at the way our ears are. So we will hear the white noise more as louder than the pink noise, but they're exactly the same.
So let's play it again, and I'll show you. So now I turned on it's called the real-time analyzer, which actually reads the frequencies and can display it visually, right? So the white noise, I'll turn it on. I think we can change the sensitivity here.
Put the fader down in the channel.
Oh, yeah.
The fader on the left side. Yeah. More. Yeah. And then put the level up on the signal generator.
So this is what a white noise is. How does the curve project to you? Let's see again. So it's the same amount of level across the whole signal. It's like flat, right? But still, that's what I was just saying 10 minutes ago. You still hear much more of the middle rather than the low and the high end. When we turn to the pink noise, let's see how it would look. So for you to perceive low frequency, this type of wave has to increase the level of the low signal much more for you to perceive it. So the pink noise audibly is you hear all the frequency the same, but the system has to boost the low for you to hear the bass. You understand what I mean? So that's what I was saying in a mix. If the mix in a song is like this, and the drums are playing and everything. So there is a drums, there is a bass guitar and everything. But you are feeding the way you mix things is everything is equal. No, it should be fine. But that's what you listen to. Would that be nice? Why? Because our ears are very sensitive to the middle range. So to compensate for this, what actual mix look like, very much like this. For you to enjoy the low frequency, we have in the system to boost that low frequency so you can perceive it nice, so you can hear the drums, you can hear the bass guitar in this very much low end. But at the system level, this is how much it takes from the energy of the system, right? From in the mix. So again, it more or less talks about the same thing. So, and that's the importance of pink noise and white noise. You said that who cares that we play music? We will never play these things. Before you guys move to move to on the stage, what we should do if we haven't been to a place before, is that we actually play one of these through the system and then get a microphone, totally independent microphone, listening to what's happening in the room. And then the room acoustics dictate really what frequencies you hear. So I put a microphone where Sohita is sitting, and then because I can play it in the system here, but the whole room acoustics changes things, right? So we adjust the level, we call it tuning. It's like guitar tuning. As we tune the guitar, we tune the room, or we tune the system, right? And once you do it for one place, usually it sticks there, and you don't have to change it much. Yes, it does change how many people in, but in general, it at least compensates for the room itself. Is it good so far, Ashraf? That's again staging. That's coming. Yes, but that's for another lesson. We're going to cover that. Sure. Correct. Because that generator sends 5 cents of each frequency to the system. Correct. This display just reads the frequencies and display to you visually. So you see what is the level. It's called the real-time analyzer. So it's sort of a measurement of each frequency. This is very much what, like when you have a stereo, those old stereos where you see the different lights going up and down, it makes you, feel good about the music and dance and stuff like that. These are different frequencies. In an equalizer, these are the low ones are pushing for the bass, the higher one pushing for the high, and this is a much more sophisticated one that looks at actual frequencies, but this is how we used to analyze what we hear and adjust it, because in the total mix, you need something more accurate. So it's called the real-time analyzer, or RTA. So yes, go. In the white? Okay. For you to perceive them equally. It's back at the same one like when we did in here. Hopefully. So they're all the same same level, right? But you perceive this way more. And then it goes down again. It's still the same level, so you see? But you hear it more in here, and then you hear less in here. So do you hear anything? Exactly. But there is a sub-signal here. Other questions?
Midhat, I just want to add something. You see the line in the middle? Our aim is to make it as flat as possible. So when you sit in a car, you know how you have the bass and the treble and everything's at 0? Nobody listens to music on 0. People like to play with the equalizers. But when you make your music correctly flat, right? When you boost the bass and the treble, it's going to sound nice. If, for example, it's going to go all over the place, it's not going to be pleasant. So the more you calibrate your system and the frequencies, like for example, pink noise, you see how it's coming gradually down? Is basically going to each frequency and you manually lowering it. So this is already doing it by itself. So that when you go to the pink noise, everything is nice and balanced. Correctly, the white noise, everything is balanced. But because we don't hear it, because the way our ears with that diagram. So at this specific frequency, they put the volume down here. At that specific frequency in the low end, they have to boost it, so it'll be the same. Pink noise is correct, but in order for us to understand it, white noise is the same amplitude, same energy. So because lower frequencies are bigger, so they travel, see the first diagram that Midhat put, the lower frequencies were big, and the other ones were small. So if I have big steps, I'm walking 4 steps. If somebody has small steps, he has to walk maybe like 10. So that's, you know, it's very important. So this is, if we don't understand this, then the next part is going to get harder. So this is like, I hope I explained it correctly. To a point, yeah.
To a point, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's all about, at the end of the day, we are not generating graphs. At the end of the day, these are tools for us to visualize what's happening in the system. Like, Ashraf, when you put, you can put a piece of software or hardware in your networking to see traffic. People don't care about traffic, but you care about traffic because when something wrong happens, you know that there is a problem in the traffic, right? You put a smoke alarm in the house, not because it happens every day, hopefully, but because if it happens, you need to know what's going on. And so there are lots of tools and that we have and that we have in the system for us to help us adjust sound, because in a session when everybody's singing and jumping and playing, you cannot, can I mute everyone and listen to Marianne? I cannot do that, right? You have to have the tools to, what's wrong with Marianne's voice? Let's adjust Marianne's voice. Oh, what's wrong with the bass guitar? Why it doesn't sound like, oh, then I go to this and find something. So all of these give you visual cues of what's going on. Repeat the question, can I answer?
So for singers, that's why a lot of times they say, sing from here, not from here, or because from here, it's all like
warm.
The whole point, yeah.
So you understand what I mean? So yeah. It all counts in, because it's like, I'm singing, what are you wrong with you? Like, because you're singing like this, so I don't want you to do in the system, right? And you would sound like this even worse, right? Or somebody, like this is where everything you input in the system, I can manipulate it to a certain extent, but I cannot change your voice as much. فاهمين قصدي؟ So, that's funny, huh? Now you understand our frustration.
Medhat, they need 1 day in the sound.
Yeah, I know. So, thank you. You want a break? Coffee? Caffeine? 10 minutes? This is very important. Yeah, ask, like, no stupid questions here. This is, you have to know, like, and I know that it's too much to cover, but if we even cover those basics in the whole day, that's 90% of the job. Ashraf. Okay. Okay. Sure. ممكن تقلب الدياجرام ده? Let me. Actually, it's easier, and I know what you mean, but I cannot. So if you flip that over, that's how your ear perceives things. If you flip that over, this is your ear sensitivity to the frequency, So your sensitivity is lower here, and then go up. That's why it gets annoying, and then it goes down again, right? So this is where the voice in our mid-range. This is where most of the violin, the middle range of the keyboard, things that are within the middle range. If you remember the frequency swipe that we did, lower frequency is more of the deep one. The high frequency is more of the mosquito, very high. Yeah, it's more sensitive in here. So for you to perceive this bass and be nice, you actually have to, go this opposite. That's what was Peter trying to explain in a usual, you know, car equalizer. You always go to the V, you know, like you make it. What is that V? The V means that exactly the opposite of this, right? Is that in low frequency you have to bump it up for you to listen to it the same frequency like here, and similarly for the high. You understand what I mean? That's it's as simple as that. Correct. Exactly. There is a section on the equalizer, right? Caffeine before we get to the next one? Yeah, okay. 2 minutes.